let's go ahead and get into the 49ers versus Seahawks game on Thursday Night Football. 49ers came out victorious in that game, 36-24. And it was a lot closer than that score suggests. Only a 12 point win there, but kind of looks like the 49ers had their way, which they did. But as usual, teams go on runs, ebbs and flows of the game. I think the 49ers ended up jumping out to a big start in that game. They were up 23-3, and looked like they were going to run away with it. They were kind of getting whatever they wanted on the offensive side. And then you could tell momentum changed after that Chenault kick return for the Seahawks that completely shifted that momentum for them. And they got going from there. They were able to cut the lead down all the way to 23-17. And they did a good job of just keeping that pressure on San Francisco. San Francisco, had to keep scoring because they, obviously felt the momentum shift. Seahawks are at home and they had to keep coming out and scoring. But the problem is Seahawks couldn't get any of those must-have stops. They got the stops to get them back into the game. Seahawks end up making some big plays, but ultimately they just couldn't get the must-have stops. And 49ers ran away with it 36-24. Question is here, is it time for concern for the Seahawks? I predicted that in my contenders versus pretenders episode, I predicted that they were a pretender. I had them as one of the pretenders after their 3-0 start. And part of it was schedule. I felt like they were playing some inferior teams, some teams you weren't really threatened by. And it inflated how they looked at the beginning of the season. And then I saw their upcoming schedule. One of the games is this game. And I felt like we were going to really find out how good they were. And I didn't see it. And what do you know? They have now lost 3 straight after starting 3-0. So I think ultimately after, our sample size of 6 games, it seems like the Seahawks are a good, not great team. They have a good offense. They have a good quarterback. They have a decent defense there, but they just aren't great. And they kind of remind me of what I used to think about my Falcons, Atlanta Falcons. I felt like we were a good team, but when we would play teams either kind of equivalent to us or maybe a little bit better, a thin margin of a bit better, we would always lose those games. And that's kind of how it feels with the Seahawks right now. They can beat the inferior teams as they should, but when they play someone kind of on their level or someone who can compete with them, they seem to typically fall short. And it's strange because they have the weapons. They have DK Metcalf. They have Kenneth Walker at running back. They have Tyler Lockett still. They got Jackson and Jigba. Like, it seems like they should. You see the vision, and obviously we are 6 games in, so still a very young season. But I think that's kind of the issue there. I looked at this game, and it looks like DK Metcalf had 3 receptions for 48 yards. The receiver with the most receptions was Kenneth Walker, who's the running back. He had 8 receptions that game. And so, it seems like they need to find a way to implement their weapons more. DK Metcalf is a beast, and he did have 11 targets in this game, but only 3 successful. I think you gotta try to find a way to implement these guys more to help them have more of an impact on a game, so you can just continue to put more pressure on these defenses that you go up against. So I think that's part of the problem. Got to get those weapons more involved into the game. You definitely want to have DK Metcalf, your best receiver, with more than three catches in the game. And I think their defense is pretty middle of the pack. Again, good, not great. So I think that's where the Seahawks are right now. I wouldn't say it's time for concern because I I don't look at the Seahawks and say, oh, that's a team that's maxed out, like that's as good as they can get. I think they still have more potential because they have a ton of weapons, and I just think they haven't hit it yet. And so, young season still have a lot of opportunity to get better. And I think if they do max out on their potential, the sky is the limit. That's a very tough team. It's very tough to play them in Seattle, and so you know and they have a good enough defense to make a run. So good, not great, but a lot of room for potential. And my question has always been with Geno Smith. I feel like he is the probably the number one person on that roster where I feel good, not great. He makes some great throws, makes some bad ones, makes some good decisions, makes some bad ones. But I just don't know. I think he's good enough to maybe lead them to the playoffs and maybe make a run. But I don't know, long term, deep playoff runs type of thing. I don't know if he's the guy for that. But I do like their weapons. And shoot, you have a good enough defense and good enough weapons, you can go as far as you want. You don't need heroics from your quarterback, i.e., the 49ers. So that was that. And then for the 49ers, here they come. I had them, speaking of the contenders versus pretenders list, I had them as one of my contenders, even after their iffy start. And I just felt like they needed to get healthy. They had that week where it was obviously Christian McCaffrey has been out all season, but Kittle was out, Debo was out, and they just weren't looking and they just weren't looking that good. And I feel like they weren't able to close out a couple games. They should have won. They end up losing those games. One against the Rams, but I just felt like it's a matter of time. And I feel like if they can continue this winning, continue to play at this level, you may drop some here and there, but for the majority, if you can keep winning and hold on and get a fresh Christian McCaffrey coming in late in the season, so he's fresh, he's healthy late in the season, and you're in a good position, you're a playoff team. That's going to be scary because we all know playoffs are definitely matchup based, but it's about who's playing well when. You don't want to play that team that is just all of a sudden has caught their rhythm at the end of the season and it seems like nobody can beat them. So, watch out. I think here they come. The 49ers, they dropped some games early, but they look really good in that Thursday night football game, and they are getting better as the season goes. So that was 49ers